Earlier this morning, Brian Kelly met with media via teleconference, Zoom, as it were, for the Texas Bowl. I think the Texas Bowl is actually who put this on. He kind of gave his opening statement about the Texas Bowl, and we hit a number of topics with Brian Kelly. One of them was the transfer portal, and he said that yesterday he ate at 3 different restaurants in Baton Rouge. Said he hit Gino's, Ruth's Chris, and Jubin's for dinner on Tuesday evening.
Sounds like a good night.
That's going to be a lot of calories.
Food.
That's a lot of food.
Sounds good to me.
A lot of rich food, a lot of delicious food that would be taken down there. But we've heard Ed Ogeron tell the stories that he ate like 4 gumbos in one night one time. It just is what it is. You got to make things happen, and that's part of the time that LSU is in right now. They're trying to put together next year's team. They're trying to figure out who's on this year's team for the bowl game. And then they're also trying to get ready to start practicing for a bowl game tomorrow. And so I thought probably the most noteworthy soundbite, even though you'll find out there's not a lot in it, was Brian Kelly's asked, hey, have you had any discussions with Garrett Nussmeier? Like, what's that sound like at this point?
I think that we're going to have some, announcements on that here very shortly, where I think everybody's going to clearly know, where we are moving forward. We won't have a walk-on at quarterback. I can guarantee you that. I think all of those decisions are coming up here. We have our first practice tomorrow, and I think we get a chance to meet with the media here on Friday, and I think we'll have a lot more information for everybody relative to what the roster looks like.
So, nothing definitive in that statement by design from Brian Kelly. So I'm going to take this point to give you my educated guess. I'm going to list the factors that I'm considering here and give you my thought as to what we're going to learn in the next 24 hours. I think it'll be more quickly than that. As he mentioned there, LSU practices football for the bowl game tomorrow. I don't think anyone who's got a real decision to make here, whether we're talking about Garrett Nussmeier, which we certainly are, Chris Hilton has been in college long enough to test the transfer portal or go into the NFL draft. Sage Ryan could go in the NFL draft or come back. I mean, there are some guys on this team that have not made announcements that I think will really quickly here. I don't think somebody's going to go out for practice on December the 12th and then go through a week's work, and then you go, you know what? I think we're going to do the draft. It certainly could. We didn't have these discussions until January as of 4 years ago. It just doesn't feel like we're at a place where we're going to have those discussions like in January now. I think those are more December discussions. That's a guess on my part. That's just the way that it feels. And the one that obviously carries more weight than any of the other ones in this instant is Garrett Nussmeier's. Right now, LSU is in the transfer portal looking for players. And we've heard Brian Kelly speak to this implicitly. This is not a guess on my part. This is a budgeting issue for LSU in terms of who they're going after in the transfer portal and how much money they can spend on said players. And there is no bigger spot that you would need to spend money on for the future than quarterback if Garrett Nussmeier were to leave. And so I believe Brian Kelly knows what Garrett Nussmeier's doing. I believe Garrett Nussmeier knows what Garrett Nussmeier's doing. And I believe LSU football is acting accordingly. Now, Garrett Nussmeier took to Instagram about 2 hours ago. And he put up a picture in his story that Cassie's got up on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. And it shows an empty chair with a purple background in one of the video studios inside Tiger Stadium. I know exactly where that is. I walk by it every single post-game show and pregame show for the road games that we do. It's on their video floor inside the newly renovated Tiger Stadium south end zone. I know exactly where that is. And my guess, based on seeing that Instagram and viewing that chair with the background where they're presumably going to film a video, is that video is going to go very much like Livy Dunn's video from last year, very much like Haley Bryant's video from last year, and not like Will Campbell and Mason Taylor, who just put up a text graphic on Instagram and fired it away. My opinion, based on that video and what LSU's doing in the transfer portal right now, is that Garrett Nussmeier is going to sit in that chair in front of that camera, and they're going to video him saying, I'm coming back to LSU for one more year. Now, why would they do that? Is this a look at me move by Garrett Nussmeier? Hey, look at me. I'm coming back. Everybody throw me flowers. I don't necessarily think so. I think this is an announcement to those in the transfer portal. This guy is coming back, and we're making a big deal of it. It's not one tweet. It's not one picture on Instagram. We're making a video. And this is going to go out on Garrett's handle, but it's also going to go out on LSU football's handle. And we're going to make a story out of it, and we're going to get 1 billion views on this thing, and we're going to stir up the LSU fan base. And all these players that are coming in to visit LSU or looking around seeing where they're going to consider playing in the transfer portal know that the guy that's playing quarterback for LSU next year just finished 6th in the country in passing yards, just finished in terms of touchdown passes in the country. He was 13th, and he's a 5th-year senior with first and second round NFL draft grades. That's who's playing quarterback for LSU. So, hey, wide receivers, he's playing quarterback. Hey, offensive linemen, everybody's going to be evaluating this guy's tape next year in college for the NFL draft. You're going to be on that tape if you come play with us. Hey, defensive players, LSU's going to be fine on offense. They've got a guy who piloted them to one of the better passing games in college football last year. Come play with us. We've got championship aspirations. We're not guessing what a guy might be. We're not telling you what some 5-star recruit might be. We're not telling you what some transfer from the Sun Belt might be. This is the quarterback. You listening? Like, that's what I think is coming, and it may come before I get off the air. If Garrett Nussmeier was taking a picture of that chair before he sat in it, they got to edit the video, and it'll come down the road. If this was part of the tease and this happens later today before they start practice tomorrow, okay, that makes sense as well. Once again, I'm not telling you what I know. I'm telling you that all of this makes too much sense for me to sit here and ignore it. If Garrett Nussmeier leaves LSU, this football program will be in some trouble because I don't see a quarterback on that roster right now that's ready to handle that spotlight and that schedule next year. And then you've got to jump in the portal to go get a quarterback, and you're going to have to spend a lot of money on that, and it's not going to allow you to spend as much money at wide receiver, at defensive end, at offensive line, at safety. It's a salary cap thing. There is not one, but LSU's resources are finite in this instance. So I'm certain, well, I always say that it's out of habit, and I'm trying to speak literally. I'm not certain. I'm comfortable suggesting that Garrett Nussmeier is not playing for free. But I'm comfortable saying that it'll be easier to get something done with him in-house from an NIL perspective as opposed to getting out in the open market and just getting into a bidding war. So we don't know anything. Brian Kelly was intentionally vague, but my thought based on what I know, which is Garrett Nussmeier hasn't said anything yet. He's teasing things on social media. LSU starts practice tomorrow. Finals in this week. They're having portal visitors in all the time, and the power that is LSU's social media department and the brand that they've created suggest all of these signs are pointing towards him saying, hey, I'm coming back. Who's coming with me? Like, that's what this sounds like to me. If it goes the other way, I'll be surprised, not stunned, surprised. But I feel like I'm reading enough tea leaves competently here that Garrett Nussmeier is going to return, and that's the announcement I'm expecting when it happens based on those tea leaves, not because I've talked to Garrett Nussmeier, not because I've got inside sources in the program who have suggested that, not because I've talked to the collective, because I'm just looking at everything that you're looking at, and it makes too much sense. There will be LSU fans that will roundly celebrate Garrett Nussmeier coming back. There will be a faction of the LSU fan base that's like, this guy was not good enough. I'm going to side with the first group there. I think having a guy that put together that kind of season in his first year as a starting quarterback with room to improve but tools and production to back it up, I think LSU's in good shape with him at quarterback next year. I don't think LSU has an opportunity to go to Clemson and win in the opener with him at quarterback next year. You start telling me that you're taking one of these guys on the roster currently, or you're trying to fish in the portal for some quarterback who may or may not played a lot, I don't want to get in those waters. I'll take the bird in the hand instead of the two in the bush. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to announce he's going to come back in the next 24 hours. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.